it's bad. Me no know about you, but me love think it's bad. Me no know what them a talk about. When them say it's bad.
It's a beautiful Friday morning here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's hot. I think that is the cry all over the world. It's just too hot. Last night we had some good rain. I thought today would have been a nice, cooler day. But there's something going on with the sun. As a matter of fact, I've read that the sun is going through its midlife crisis. And so we're having lots of solar storms. And I suppose that's one of the reasons why it is so hot. Normally around this time of year, it is hot. But this time it's blistering hot. We are desperately in need of lots of rain. I've seen and I've read, I've looked, and I've realized that the whole world is having drought issues. We see that the Euphrates River is drying up. We see that the Yangtze River, again, is drying up. We see lots of areas where farmers are having issues with crops, and it is not a very good sign. My name is Sandra Quilly Atherton, and this morning you're in tune to Your Views. Your Views is a program that is aired on Win FM every Friday morning around this time, 10 o'clock. It's a program where you can call in sometimes and share your views, depends on the topic that we're discussing, or most of the time I would have a guest. Today I should have had one. I'm still waiting to see whether or not he would make his appearance. And so we can discuss topics of great interest. That's things that are happening in St. Kitts and Nevis and the diaspora. And as a matter of fact, generally, things that are happening around the world. There are lots of us who are not in tune to world events and things that are happening that would have some serious impact on us. And this I know because sometimes you try to have an educated discussion, one where people have information, and you find it very difficult to find people who are in tune to what is happening around them or around us. And so that is one of the reasons why I suppose we make the decisions that we make, because we do not have the necessary information that is necessary to make informed decision. But that's who we are as humans. We are dictated to, especially black people. We like to know that we are followers and that we are not leaders and that we are not educated enough and that we are not informed enough. And so I suppose it is just who we are as a people, and these are the things that we have to start changing. Because if we really want to be the conquerors, if we really want to be the leaders of this world, then we have to make sure that we have the information that is absolutely necessary to position ourselves. Maybe that's the reason why we are in the position that we are in, because we don't have the information that is necessary to propel us forward or to lift us upwards. And I suppose that has happened over the years, eons and eons ago, where we have been dictated to, and we continue to, because of the fact that we have been brainwashed, we continue to allow people to brainwash us and dictate to us because we don't know otherwise, because we're not widely read enough, or because we stick to an opinion without proper information. And that says a lot. And I suppose, who am I? I don't think I can change the world, but I know definitely I can make a difference. And that is one of the things that I'm aspiring to do, is to see how much of a difference I can make in this big world that I find myself in, where people have a right to their opinion and people have a right to basically to say how they feel. Freedom of speech cannot be condemned. And I wish that everybody would look at it from that perspective, not recognizing that they're the only ones who should have a say and others should be muted. But there's one thing that I have to say is that I cannot be muted. And like everybody else, I would have my say. You know, this morning I prepared for a discussion. It was going to be a very interesting discussion. We were going to look at the fact, because you don't want to, for me, I think politics should have its season. We have basically gone through an election. We have the people who have spoken. We have chosen the government, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. They are the people who, the government that is in charge at this time. And I suppose we should give them due diligence, allow them to do what they're supposed to do. They have time in which to do so, and we should sit down and, like me, observe and see what is going on. But at the end of the day, I still think I have a right to speak, just like you have a right to speak. One of the areas that I'm going to talk about this morning is about the violent nature of supporters of political parties, not just one, not just St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, but all political parties. And we are one. We are citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. We are brothers and sisters. We are neighbors. We are friends. We are family. I've seen family being torn apart because of politics. You see friendship, long time friendship has been basically broken up because of politics. And you ask, when are we going to learn that it is a cycle? And these are the things that are going to happen. The curse words, the demeaning words, the attack on people's character, the maligning, those are the things that we have to stop. And I say to all, and I will say it again, to all leaders, it is something that should not be encouraged. Because at the end of the day, sometimes it's not poor leadership, but it's the people that surrounds the leaders that makes them fail. Everybody needs a job. And I'm going to say it again, everybody needs to work. And I think that it is very unfair that people, because of their political party, their political persuasion, they would be looked at as a threat and have to be sent home. Remember, when you're sending home people, that these people have to live, and they have to live in the same country under the same government. Some people took it, and you see why some people, after government takes office, they would run overseas and they would seek employment there because they can't seem to work under the government not of their choice. And so they have had the opportunity to go, but some people do not have that opportunity, that they can run and they can leave. They have to live under a government that they did not elect, but a government that was elected by the majority. And so we're asked, how you felt, according to you, that you were victimized. You know what the feeling was like. Why would you want to do that to your fellow men? And that is a problem that I have, where I see people not realizing that it is not a good position to find yourself in. I'm not a public worker. I'm not a civil servant in any way, and I cannot be victimized in any way. And again, I said I would not be muted. I would speak because I have a right to speak. And it's just in all fairness, and people have to understand that. In all fairness, people have a right to talk. I've seen people who would have jumped ship and they're back on the same ship, and they're the ones who are speaking the loudest. They're the ones who are asking for blood. But they jumped ship because they were looking for opportunities, just like others who would have jumped ship because they thought that the grass was greener on the other side. And maybe, who knows, it might have been greener on the other side, and that's one of the reasons why they would have jumped ship. And we all have that right. It is our constitutional right to elect a government of our choice, and I suppose that is one of the rights that we exercise at the polls. But I'm asking you guys to realize that people, I made a statement this morning on Facebook, and people are highlighting that they would have been one who would have been victimized if PLP would have taken office. These are, I don't know, the assumptions are based on facts. I don't know what facts or what information their assumptions are based on, but I cannot tell you how you feel. But it is the strangest thing that you see, where it is the target for people who supported the People's Labour Party. PAM was opposed Labour, PLP opposed Labour, CCM opposed Labour. The last collision was between NRP and Labour. I don't know where NRP stood during this last election, but we have all opposed, not we, the parties have opposed, members have opposed Labour. Labour have opposed PAM, and they have opposed CCM. They have the rights to oppose. They're in a position where now you have to govern, but you have to remember that we are all citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. An area that I'm looking at of grave concern, you look and you see it. We see the foreigners. Sorry, and I'm not saying this in any bad way. I'm saying it because it is a fact. We see where monies were spent to foreigners so that you can buy their votes, and at the end of the day, provisions are made for them where because they would have supported you, in order for them to continue to support, you had to make provisions so that they are comfortable. For me, it is disheartening because the locals, they were not paid. You have to be in a certain group or position in order to be paid. And then at the end of the day, special provisions are not made for you. As a matter of fact, you're put at a disadvantage where you have people coming using our healthcare service, and they're foreigners, they're not residents here, and they would be getting service for free. I don't know which other country you can have that, but if these are the things and provisions that are made for them, I could understand. I mean, the Prime Minister knows exactly. I mean, he's in there now. He understands what he can do and what he cannot do. But at the end of the day, we are saying that all people, all citizens, because of the fact that they supported a political party, they are basically picked on and they are sent home. It's an unfortunate situation. The people would say Unity did it. It was wrong. PAM did it. It was wrong. We are now saying Labour is doing it. It is wrong. It is wrong, and it should be called out as wrong. I know Curtis Cook is going to say the same thing. Oh, when TDC fired me, but one has to understand TDC is the private sector, and they have policies. And if you do not abide by their policies, of course they have the right to send you home. I work for TDC for almost 10 years, over 10 years, and they have policies. And if you give your employees handbook, if any adjustments that are made, you will be notified about it. So if TDC fire you, that has nothing to do with the government. TDC is a private company, and I suppose they have their own rules and regulations, and the government cannot decide what TDC do or what TDC doesn't do. And these are the things that people are going to say. Maybe I shouldn't have. Not that I should not have, because I know that is going to be an issue, and I know when I open the lines, he's going to call in and he's going to say the same thing. But we cannot render evil for evil, and I'm not saying this because PLP is not in power and Labour is. I would say the same thing. You cannot render evil for evil. I've never supported any party who's going to victimize or anybody. And I've said that in previous radio programs that I've had. I've said it on Voices. I'm not an advocate for that. People have a right to work. You have to learn to work with people. At the end of the day, there are areas that, if sensitive areas, you wouldn't have the opposition working in, and so you would have to make some adjustments. And I do hope that the people who were sent home is because adjustments have to be made and they have to be placed otherwise. You do not, for me, a government who would have talked about and would have campaigned on the fact that the ruling party had no vision and had no way of taking the country forward, and basically was bankrupt of ideas, and investors were not coming and need to make provisions to create more jobs. I can't see that you're coming in and you're getting rid of people to replace them. Then you're not creating jobs. You have to create jobs to make sure that people can find work to do, because that is what you campaigned on. That was the basis in which people would have elected you, because you said you're going to create more jobs. I've seen certain situations, and I'm not being, and I'm not going to create, I have no apologies to make. We're seeing some areas, and it's an area that is very, very, very dear to my heart. It's a problem that I've seen, and it's people are playing politics with it. Their people's lives, their health is at stake. The Bastia High School is an issue. I'm still waiting to see of any scientific reports that says that the building, the integrity of the building is good enough, and so that we can put school children back there. I attended Bastia High School, and I know that I used to play basketball. You go to the back on the basketball court, and when you walk in an area there, we didn't know at that time, we thought it was just water backing up. Didn't realize that we were walking in sewage, where stool and everything was backing up there. We saw and we know that the building is made from asbestos. We understand the dangers of asbestos, and so I do hope that we are not trying to prove anybody politically wrong by endangering the life, the health of our young people, putting them back into that area of the Bastia High School without proper, and I wouldn't expect them not to do proper testing and making sure that the building or the areas are cleaned, the sewage area is cleaned up. But the building, for me, the integrity of the building, I really don't think, because I'm hearing about renovating it, I think it's demolishing and building afresh. If that is the case, if you're going to use the same site, there's some areas of grave concern, and I think it should be looked into before we can make that decision of trying to prove people wrong for political mileage. it is a situation that I am looking at. As a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, I think I have a right to talk, and I think anybody else would have that right to talk, and not looking at it from a political standpoint. We have to stop putting politics in everything. That is one of the problems that we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis, is that politics, people, the political party that you support, every time you have a discussion with a friend or anybody, you're demeaned, you're cursed out, people say things about you, ugly things about you that you don't even know about yourself. But I don't really care about that. My back is broad and I can take on anything that anybody wants to say about me. That is how they feel about me. Nobody define me. I know who I am, and definitely whatever you, and everybody have a right to say how they feel. So if that is the way you feel about me, kudos to you. If it's really a big problem and you want me to change it, then I think you can come and we can have that discussion, and I can see if you're right. I see areas that I can make adjustment so that you could make your world a little more comfortable. But we have to stop playing politics. We have to start looking at situations. The area that I have a problem with is that I think it was too soon to make that judgment call about putting back the Bastia High School in its original place without doing the necessary research and the proper testing, and before you can make a decision of renovating and putting the new Bastia High School in an area that has been contaminated, have been proven so. We had people who came in and who did the testing of the sites and realized that it was not good for habitable for students to spend any prolonged period in that area. That is just a tip on the iceberg. We need to make sure that when people are making decisions, they are making informed decisions. We're having proper testing done. This is a health issue. This is not a political to satisfy or to prove anybody politically incorrect. We have had the situation in 2015, 2012, 2013, 14, leading up to the 2015 elections. We have recognized that it is a situation. We know that it is absolutely necessary and should be priority for the new Bastia High School to be built. As a matter of fact, that is one of the areas. That's one of the areas that was campaigned on in 2015, that it was absolutely necessary. We're in 2022, and let us see and make sure that this is something that has to be done. It's on both sides of the political parties campaign. You heard again the same situation with the Bastia High School, the healthcare system, the JNF problems that we have at JNF. We do hope again that priority is given. I heard the Prime Minister talk about the MRI machine, but again, you have to take into consideration that it's not something that could have happened just now. It must have been the effort of the previous administration, so that the Prime Minister now said that we are in a matter of weeks away before we can get the MRI machine at the JNF hospital. I am grateful because it is absolutely necessary to save lives, and people would complain of the fact that because of the lack of having a dialysis machine in Nevis, people would have lost their loved ones. And people said the same thing, having a proper MRI machine here in St. Kitts, people would have lost their loved ones. But it's not just an MRI machine. There are other machineries that needs to be done. As a matter of fact, it's not just machinery. The building has to be looked at. I think it was one of the areas where the previous administration was talking about a new JNF. We want to see whether or not that is going to be possible, or we're going to do renovations to what we have right now. But there are a lot of areas that attention was not paid to, and because of that, we have situations now that we have to basically deal with. So we're looking at some of the failed, if we're going to say that, because this is what comes up normally, failed policies, areas that needed to be attended to, that is not attended, attention has not been paid to, I think attention was not given, the attention was not given to. So we are looking at those areas, and we have criticized them. That's what we do. When you're in opposition, you criticize. When you're in government, you make the same mistakes. So let's see whether or not this administration or the new leadership would make the same mistakes as his predecessors, or he would make a difference. It just takes some time. like I said, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that we talk about this, and then later on we find ourselves in a similar situation. So let's give everybody a chance to do what they say they're going to do, and let us have patience in making sure that adequate time is given and that people can do exactly what they're supposed to do. But I'm going to make an appeal again to the powers that be, realizing that people have a right to to eat. People have a right to work if you're qualified for the position. I'm not talking about people who were placed in political positions. Of course, they know, and they're supposed to have known by now, that they have to go home, because those positions were created because of some people, because of the support that they would have given to the political parties. So we know that these positions are, and they should have understood that these positions are what they are, and they they are going home. Or if Dr. Jew would find it in his heart to realize too that they are humans and they are citizens, and they should be given a right to feed their families, that he would allow them to you can move them into other areas where they can function, or you can send them home. I think this is something that they would have accepted. But again, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. Those old people who have passed the age of 55 and 62, just like how it was criticized in the previous administration, I do hope that those old people that are coming back home, I hope and I trust that they're not looking to be positioned in government. And I hope and I trust that the same thing that was complained against is not the same thing is going to be applied to them, because that is the hypocrisy that I find for political parties, where you say one thing when you're in opposition, and when you get in power you do the same, and sometimes even worse. So I do hope, because let me tell you, Labour have had a very strong support of the masses. The masses, are the people that are not as qualified. These are people who basically get the low-end jobs. These are people who depend heavily on the programs like PAP and Peace so that they can get through. And so these are the people that I find gonna face the same problem, because where are these people going to be placed? These people are the ones who still have to clean the side of the road. Their position would not change. And I heard the Prime Minister would have made mention of the fact that you're going to increase the PAP and the peace program, and you're going to set it up in a way where Social Security is deducted. As it's not just a program where you just collect some monies, but you'll be given a job, and Social Security would be deducted. I am waiting to see this genius at work, where this program can be revamped and changed, and people would, the people that are on these programs, the people that this program was intended for, would accept these things. You know, there's certain things that we have to tread lightly on. We recognize that our streets were safer, whatever it took to get it to be that way. It was the short-term plan. We have to look at the medium plan now, medium-term plan being implemented, and look forward to see what a long-term plan would look like. In order for us, if it has become burdensome on the government, you have to come up with some ideas of how we're going to fix it. Remember that our jail system is not adequate. We cannot go back to that lifestyle that we had, where all our young men were murdered, the gang situation. We can't go back to that. We've lived in peace and tranquility for the past 7 years that one has become accustomed to, where you can now leave your doors open, and you had the little petty crimes that have been committed. You have had people, you cannot say you've changed everyone, because there's some people who still have that criminal mind and waiting for an opportunity to do so. And so there's certain things that you just have to keep in place in order for us to continue to benefit and from the lifestyle of having that peace and that tranquility that we have now become accustomed to. If we are going to continue to embark on tourism, we saw where it came from, we saw where it's at, and if we are going to continue to having over 1 million passengers visiting our shores, these are the things that we have to keep in place, make sure that they're worked on, and so that we can have an economy that can sustain these programs that are already there. We're looking at the PAP program. I know there are lots of people who are on the PAP program who should not be there. I don't think government should get rid of the PAP program. The program should be looked into because there are lots and lots of people who are on the program who should benefit, who need to be on the program. Before that poverty alleviation program came up, poor people can tell you how difficult it was. And we have to now look at the rise in food prices. I mean, you cannot keep up with the fact that prices are changing. And I'm going to say to the consumers, it is not because the wholesalers or the retailers want to do so. It is because they are forced to do so. We have seen freight charges move from $10,000 to up to $20,000, $25,000, more than 100% increase. And not only just freight charges, but the prices of food has gone up considerably. We have to take into consideration that there's a war in Ukraine. You have the drought system problems in Europe. You have the world is teetering basically on a recession. We see where you have the fear of China invading Taiwan. We see North Korea getting itchy and wanting to do things. We are living in a place where we think that things only happen in St. Kitts because we are small-minded. But the things that happen in St. Kitts depends heavily on what happens in the outer world. We have had a situation where the euro was the same rate as the US dollar. It shows where the world is. The world is in crisis, and that is one of the reasons why we need experienced people at the helm. I mean, you can only get experience if you're there. So I do hope, but it's a quick learning process. You have to learn quickly because the things that are happening outside of us, it's happening rapidly. And so therefore, in order to cushion, because you can't prevent the fall, but cushion the fall, we have to have people who have a good understanding of how to boost an economy, how to stimulate an economy. And these are the things that we are hoping is going to happen. So instead of sitting down and having these petty discussions and cursing and saying who should go and who should stay, have an understanding of what is happening in the outer world, realizing that it is not about who's going or who's staying. The situation is going to be the same because the problems that are affecting us are there. We have no control over them. We can only make the adjustments here in order to make sure that the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis are comfortable. And I would say it again, the rain falls on the just and on the unjust. Whatever problems that Labour people would face or PLP people would face, I mean, the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis is going to face it. So it's not a PLP problem or Labour people problem or PAM problem. It is us having a problem. So we need people who are not focusing on sending home people. We need people who are focusing on how we are going to build an economy that is going to withstand the problems that we are getting ready to face. We are already facing. We're going to have to find time to sit down and see how we can find solutions to alleviate some of the hardships that are coming to us. You can't just get up because somebody said. I mean, we saw where you were being given concessions for school students, but at the end of the day, we recognize that most people would have already bought school supplies for their children, so the concession is not beneficial. Well, I don't know how true it is, where I think the one from Hartford is true, so I suppose the government is now giving 2 VAT days, so you can go and purchase whatever you want and benefit from the discount, the concessions that you're going to get. Because trust me, better days are not coming. We have to see how we can cushion and how we can find ways and means of getting us to survive the problems that the world is facing right now. It is not easy. People do not come and tell you the reality of the situation. They tell you things that you want to hear, especially during an election campaign. They always tell you what they're going to do for you, but they never tell you how they're going to get it done. Because they say things that we want to hear, that sounds really good for us, and that those are the things that allow us to make the decisions when we go to the poll of who we are going to vote for. But if you would only know about the problems that we are about to face, and let me tell you, one of the things I can tell you for sure is that people are out there waiting to be positioned. Everybody who took part in the protests, everybody who sang the song Get Rid of Them, everybody who wore a red shirt, everybody who at one point in time, went out and who were on the talk shows, people who would have talked against the Unity administration. Everybody is looking for something. They would tell you about the nepotism and the narcissistic government that is being run, and it is the same thing is going to happen. We said that or the previous Labour administration. You hear that under a unity construct, and you're going to hear it again under the Sinkis Nevis Labour Party Next Gen or New Generation governance, because this is what it is. You cannot change politics. You change the players, but the game remains the same. Everybody is going in there. I have been exposed to certain information in politics, and it sickens me to my stomach. We, as the electorate, we are pawns in this game. We don't understand the reality of politics. We don't understand what politics is all about. We are used. I've said that in previous radio programs that I would have had. It sickens me to my stomach to see how we, the ordinary man, is being used. We're no better than the Europeans who went to Africa and enslaved us and brought us here. They're no better. They are the same. Everybody is going to look for themselves first. It started already. You place people in positions that you can benefit from. We have to start getting information about, in order for us to make a difference, we have to really start to get the information that would educate us and would help us to make the right decisions, because they are not going to be any different. Trust me. When they understand what they can get out of politics, trust me, they are not going to be any different. It's about self. It's human nature. It is human nature to look after oneself first. It happens all over. We have seen Hunter Biden having people investigating him. We have seen Donald Trump being investigated. We have seen go to the Caribbean, you see all of the corruptions and the investigations that is happening. You're seeing now people wanted to investigate Dr. Douglas. They want to investigate Timothy Harris, and that is what happened. It is politics, and the ones who make the loudest noise and the ones who create the biggest crowd are the ones who gets the least. You are given handouts to keep you quiet. Literally, because of course for you, $300 go a very long way. $500 makes a big difference in the ordinary life, the life of the ordinary man. And this is what is given to you. These are the promises that are made to you. We are going to keep you in the same position. We are giving you a little increase. The big monies you don't know. We would never know what is in the CBI program. We would never know how much was in the SIDF fund. We would never know who gets those big monies. All we know at the end of the day, that we are given small things. And I don't want to disappoint you, but it has happened from the beginning, and that is what politics is all about. People enriching themselves, people making sure, certain people, a few, making sure that they are comfortable. And when they recognize that their time is almost at hand, then they start to basically top up. We basically top you up and make you feel a little more comfortable, and then you'd vote them in again. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to open the line, so if you want to call in and we can have the discussion, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say to you again, if you're going to be disrespectful, I'm going to cut you off. If you have a message you want to give, then fine. But otherwise than that, let's keep it clean. We have a call online. Let's take this call. Caller, your life and your views.
Good morning, Mama Earth. How your morning? I'm
my morning is great. Trust me.
You keep confidence within the Lord, the Almighty.
Thank you.
And you will be successful in joy and happiness.
Appreciate
Good morning to your listeners via radio and internet of WinFM. And what is the program schedule as today, Mama?
We're talking about politics and politicians, and we're talking about everything. We're talking about the state of our economy, and whatever your contribution you want to be.
I would like to bring something to the floor. I read an article today coming from the Observer, and indicate about the VAT have 2 days reduced for back to school.
Mm-hmm.
I may not even know you heard about that.
I don't know. I'm confused whether if it's just back to school or is VAT across the board. I'm not too sure about that.
Well, they're using the term from the context of the school things and that the parents them have to be buying.
Mm-hmm.
So they have them for 2 days, either the Friday and the Saturday of this week.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And just to indicate, if it's VAT like that, that can still put the parents at a disadvantaged stage. Now, what we need in the context of this administration, who is now newly coming to be a service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, let us have a discussion that we can remove that entirely.
Yep.
Because that is not helping poor people rise, like the rich man and the rich man rising within the VAT aspect, and the administration then know that. But they're still pondering and saying, we have to put a reduction on VAT. Let us remove that altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Let us remove it. There's other ways. I mean, we can get tax income without using VAT. Because when we go to the supermarket, we have to put back some of the items.
It's true.
When we go to the bookstore, we have to put back some of the items. So VAT, within the movement of the 2 days that implying from this new administration, is not a surprise. I had to tell somebody so this morning, it's not a surprise. How can you use that term and say it's a surprise when you know you're still benefiting? So who really getting the laugh? The administration and the people who have control the booking system, who are selling these books, not the parents who are going to buy them. Eh?
It's true.
Let us put real context to this analogy where they're telling us they're dealing with mathematics and they're dealing with figures. I can't check because I didn't went to the university, but I could count. You see what the word I use?
Mm-hmm.
I cannot check. I could count because check and count is different in the context how you use it.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Mm-hmm.
It's right now we have to bring these things arrangement to the new Prime Minister and his administration, because somebody still getting rich over our people, and they say they are for the poor people.
Yep.
As the man just stated, they are the working class, but they are supporting the rich man and the rich man. And I see them happening now in the administration. But may I bring this onto your program because it left for another time. But
Appreciate
I will just say that ain't not a surprise with the 2 days of that removal. You all need to come better than that. You know administration. Come on, you all know better. You all is here to still keep our people under the bottom of the economical ladder.
Thank you.
Bless the Lord.
Thank you, darling. Thank you for your contribution. It's what I said. People have a right to do. People have a right to see how they feel, and I appreciate the fact that you can express yourself in the way that you see it. And just like you would have said, there's certain things that are done so that to impress us as poor people, but at the end of the day, you can only appreciate the fact the reductions. We have a call if you have the money to go and do so. Let's take this call. Caller, you're live on your views.
Sanjay, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you doing?
I am great.
Yes. This is Junius Clifford speaking.
Hey, Juni, how you
You know,
doing?
I am one who don't believe in because something has been happening for some time. It must continue.
Yep.
Because if my father was a womanizer having children here, there, and everywhere, and I can see the negative effect of having children up and down the place, why should I follow him? I
Exactly.
should be able to break that course so
Exactly.
that at least my children now coming forward would see, okay, my father does not subscribe to that sort of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So the politicians before who get themselves involved in corrupt practice, the new politicians are not to follow them.
Exactly.
And that's why measures should be put in place. So if any corrupt practice is being done, they have to answer to the people.
Yep.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good, sir. Good. Right? So I don't subscribe to because it happened back then. It should continue.
Agree with
We
you.
must put an end to it. And now.
Yep.
And now.
Yep.
Thank you for listening, sir.
Thank you for your contribution. I do agree with you. That's what I said. We change the players, but the game remained the same. We're talking about good governance. We need, and I know Ira is listening, and I know he always talk about that, the good governance agenda. It is not just saying it; it's putting about these things in place. We have another call online. Let's take this call. Caller, you're live on your views.
Yes, I hope that means I'm going to live long.
Boy, I'm laughing.
just
I
call my
am
name.
smiling. I am smiling. Yeah, let's hear
Yeah.
you.
I heard your comment about victimization,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I would suggest that you be specific
Mm-hmm.
because I don't see any mass turning away of people as you claim.
I didn't say that there were mass turning away of people. I said there's some people who were sent home. And these are not political appointees. I made that clear that political appointees know they have to go. There's no question
Okay.
about that.
So if they were not political appointees, you mean they were in the civil service?
They were in the civil service.
Well, if they're in the civil service, they can't be just turned away like that, you know.
No, they were sent home
You're
on
aware of
vacation.
that?
Yeah, I know.
Huh?
Yeah, I
Right.
know. Hmm.
But sending them on vacation is not turning them away. Is it?
No, it's not. That's what I said. I hope it is just vacation and you can find some way that you can put them back in, not in the same area if you feel like it's a threat, but put them back to work because people need to feed their families.
Right. Everybody need to feed their families. It ain't just now. It's a long time ago. But the question is, right, how do you break the cycle?
You know
Right.
that
And-
well because you've been talking to that for a very long time.
Exactly.
So you understand how you break the cycle. And you always said to me, Sandra, not because it was done then means
Right.
that it should be done now and be
Exactly.
agreed upon. So let's have the discussion.
Right. So the question now becomes, how do we break the cycle? And I would suggest to you, I mean, you may have other ideas, but I would suggest to you that once good governance practices
Hmm.
are followed, are introduced and followed, and I'm sure you saw my response. I hope you saw my response to you this
Yes,
morning
I did.
on Facebook.
Hmm.
Right. Once these things are introduced, it will become, transitioning will become less painful because we would do things correctly.
Hmm.
The problem we have right now is that because of the nepotism and cronyism and corruption that we had before, there are ills right now in government that need to be corrected.
Yep.
Okay? I mean, do you honestly feel, maybe you might be professional, but can you vouch for anybody else? Do you honestly feel that some of those, even civil service appointments, I'm sure you know that some of them were political.
Of course, and that's what I said this morning.
Right. And do you think that these people are going to be professional even right now?
They
Don't you think because they were so involved in the political process, and they should not have been a civil servant, that they are suddenly going to turn on a dime and become cooperative with the government? Do you really feel so? You might be professional, but do you really vote for a lot of these.
But
other
we've
appointees.
seen that, and I agree with what you're saying, Ira. But we've seen that. We've seen that during let's go back as far as when Pam took office. That was a single. It was Pam and NRP, and you saw they held on to some of the Labour supporters. You saw when Labour went into office, you saw that they held on, and it's the same thing with the Unity. They have held on to lots of Labour supporters, and they've worked. For me, they said it would have given an honest day's work. So we saw that recent, that's 2015 up to 2022, where there are lots of people who are now still in the civil service who are strong Labour supporters. So we do hope. I'm saying to you then, if the fact that they're up to now, 2022, it must have been that they were given an honest day's work or the service that was intended from them.
But at the same time, right, remember we're not talking about the rank and file, the ordinary, shall we call it in inverted commas, civil servant or person who is working in government. Okay? Those are really, if ever touched. Okay? You got to be really, there are some who are really in your face, and I suppose, they're difficult to work with. Okay? But the ordinary civil servant don't have to worry about their job.
Okay, let's
it's
see.
It's the people in key positions that are the problem.
Okay,
right?
Let's see. I hope.
Key position meaning senior. One of the things that I used to argue against was the fact that nowhere else in the Caribbean you found a prime minister with so many siblings in key areas of government, right?
But if they're qualified for the position
sector.
again, I'm going to ask again, though, Ira, and let's be civil about this. You have a family where your parents would have had lots of children, and they're all qualified for the positions that they're in. Qualified. What is so wrong in them holding those positions? What is wrong with that?
There are other people who are equally or more qualified. That's the whole point. How do you, the sibling of a prime minister should not be a qualification for office.
But they were not, but his siblings were in office in the same position that they're in now before he became prime minister.
Not all of them.
Which one was? Which one wasn't? But you have the young ones just coming up, and you expect them that you're going to make your decisions. That I could understand. If you can prove that these people were given positions just like the ordinary person because their brother or their uncle was the prime minister, then of course you expect that these people are going to go home. Or they're going to be moved if they're appointed. They're going to move across the board. But you have to prove that they were given the position because they were the prime ministers.
No, you don't have to prove it. What you have to do is just look at it in terms of common sense ethics.
So because I'm the prime minister's sister.
Listen.
Okay.
Why you think, for instance, that in well-managed organizations, let's say like banks and certain public sector corporations and so on, it is against regulations to have two family members in the same department.
That was then in our time. That was then in our time. They're changing that now because it's unfair. It is unfair because my brother.
I'm talking about public. No. I'm talking
about the private sector.
Private.
I'm talking about the private sector.
No. Yeah, no.
Yeah, we're talking about the private sector. I know.
No, but I'm saying even in the private sector, you can distinguish between a family, let's say a family-owned business, and a publicly owned.
I really can't call the names because it would be unethical to do so. But I can tell you in the banks where you have husbands and wives who are working in the same department. I mean, in the same department. It's not the same department. The same corporation company.
That is absolutely not normal corporate practice.
But it's happening. It is happening.
And
so I'm saying to you, so
doesn't mean that it's correct.
I mean, you are saying, but then because my brother is the manager of a bank, and I'm his sister, and I want to do the job that I like in the bank, I should not be given the position because my brother is the manager of the bank.
Not in the same area.
Not in the same area, but these are not.
It's guarding against nepotism and
of course it does. So-
It is not best practice to do that.
But and this one,
There's no way you can convince any shareholder or corporate people that is good practice. That's not in most well-regulated company manuals.
I've seen in Tennessee where I mean, and I've seen where people are chairman of boards and their daughters or sons are being placed in position because that's who they are. It's human nature, Ira. We're talking
exactly. I know it is human nature, and that is why there should be safeguards against it, because it's human nature to help your family, right? You would tend to take all kinds of shortcuts and do all kinds of things to make sure you do that. But help your family with your own resources. Do not use public resources to do that.
These supposed to be
that ends up being corruption.
Okay, well, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen now, because
Yeah,
you've seen
right,
it start to
you know.
happen already. But let me tell you something: these are supposed to be honorable people, and we have to realize that sometimes trust, and it's trust has to be. It's a factor. And you are in an environment where laws are put in place to govern situations like this, because I just find it such an unfair situation that because my brother is in a certain position and I am qualified for another position, I cannot get a job because my brother is in that position. It's the same way.
No, you
can't get a job because of the
You can't
political
get a
party
job
that
if
I supported.
That particular area or that branch of government or something like that. But that don't mean you can't. If they're so qualified, they would get a job elsewhere, whether in the private sector or their own business or somewhere else.
That is
it
true.
Does not have to be. It doesn't have to be like this.
But then
Let me put you on this spot, okay? Because again, you're saying it's victimization. You're our good friend, Weeks here. Do you honestly feel that he should have been given the job he had? Do you honestly feel that he got it without any undue political influence?
I've never seen Weeks
Do you
here.
honestly
Let me tell you, I can't go based on emotions like yours. I have never seen Weeks here operate in the area that he's operated. I have always believed that people experience for me is greater. People always talk about having papers and having the necessary education. There are a lot of people who are placed in position that are not, they don't have the necessary education, but they have the experience. I don't know the conditions under which Weeks got his job, but I know he's a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I think that if he has the experience,
so are thousands of other people, Sandra. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Ira, this is my cue.
You must establish some basis.
Okay.
You must establish some basis.
Make it quick. Make it
of
quick,
which
though.
to
Make it quick,
fairly-
because
yeah.
here my cue. Make it quick. I have to wrap up the program.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You remember that you have to establish some basis on which to hire. Otherwise, if it becomes arbitrarily to do so, or you just arbitrarily do so, or it becomes a case of favoritism and so on.
Well,
people are going to object to that.
Yes,
Right?
and we have to
it
try.
shouldn't happen.
Now that it's an issue
Right.
now, we're going to have to try to avoid it in the future. I do hope it doesn't happen in the
Right.
future, and we won't have to be having this discussion. Thank you for your
That's cool.
contributions.
That's
Always
cool.
welcome.
Okay, then.
And have a great weekend and a great enjoy the rest of your day. Today is Friday. My time has come to an end. As a matter of fact, you can hear my music in the background. It's a cue to say that I'm out of time. It was a pleasure being here with you. And let us start looking at us as citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis and not outsiders. We have to do the right thing. We have to start putting policies in place so that we won't run into the same situation again. Good governance, it's an agenda. We have to make sure that we put those things in place and not just change players, but change the rules of that governs the game. And in order, when we do that, we wouldn't have the same problem. We know that protocols for COVID have been lifted, but I'm going to say to you still, COVID is still a threat, and I do ask that you continue to do what you're supposed to do, wear your mask, social distance, and sanitize every time you go out in public. My name is Sandra Quilly-Atherton. It was a pleasure to be here. Stay tuned to Win FM 98.9. Voices is up next.
But me not think it's bad.